What's up, Ryan? How's it going, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. You got a nice, very nice collection behind
Yeah,
you.
I like. I'm a big fan of VHS, and that's kind of why I wanted to speak with you today. This film, builds on the 1980s cult classic while offering a fresh take. What inspired you to revisit and ultimately reinterpret this story for a new generation?
Yeah. So for me, it's funny that this questions keep popping up, and the
Yeah.
thing is, I didn't set out to do this film or have the idea to do this film. It was just so random that I was approached by the producers and said, "Would you like to? They've got the rights for Street Trash, and would you like to write a script and direct a film?" And then, luckily, I knew what the fuck Street Trash was, and I was a fan of it when I was a kid, and I used to watch it in a little room on the TV with my friends and pass the VHS around and stuff. So yeah, it was like straight away, I was like, fuck, that's cool. And then uh the same as you, I can tell just because of all your films in the background. It's one of those where when you hear about like a remake or something like that, I'm like, no, just fucking leave it alone. What the fuck are you doing it? And the thing for me was it straight away, I was like, I have to do something completely different, but I want it to be more of a sequel, a loose sequel.
Yeah.
I don't want to copy it whatsoever. What do I like about the original? What do people love about the original? Obviously, it's great that it's old school New York and stuff like that. And on top of that, it's the multicolored goo. That's the whole street trash thing, and obviously the prosthetics, and it's just that nostalgia of that fucking cool 80s movies. So I look at that, take those bits, and create my own story
Yeah.
that's totally different in the same world, just later on. And yeah, so for like a new audience, it introduces street trash and it introduces once they watch this, they'll end up watching the original if they haven't seen. People around our age, we've seen street trash, but new people, they don't know what the fuck it is. You know what I mean? Unless they go digging. So the cool thing is, it's nice to introduce that, and then it's been great so far that people have watched it that love the original and end up loving this as well, which is really cool. And I think they can see, I've tried to do something different. I haven't copied the original. I've given a lot of nods to the original. And as a fan, just like other people, you know what I mean? I don't want to take away from, the original film. I want to create something of my own and just in the same world, but also different. And for me, it was important to have a strong story, a more of a narrative story, and just really strong characters and fun characters that you could, go on this journey with. And not only that, the cool thing with the music and everything and having that still that 80s vibe was with that we shot on 35 millimeter, which
Yep.
you never ever get the chance to do that. And I never thought I would, direct a film on 35. So that alone also just helps with that feel and keeping it in that same world.
Yeah, you mentioned like that was kind of a dream since childhood to shoot on 35 millimeter.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I couldn't agree more. It enhances the grittiness, the tactile feel of street trash. So I thought that was really cool that you were able to do that.
Yeah, yeah, and it was fun. It was shooting on film is I've shot on film before, on like 8 mil and 16, like about 10 years ago or more. But with 35 and having a big crew and all this, it was it makes me wonder why people don't shoot on film more. But obviously there's many reasons why they fucking don't shoot on film with producers and money, and if it doesn't come out, you've lost all this money. There's so many things, but there's nothing quite like film. Just the textures and the feel of it, and there's some people that just fucking watches film and they don't give a fuck and they won't even notice if it's film or not. But the people that do love film, you can see it straight away. You can see those textures, and you know, it's like the high def digital TVs now. It's like it just looks so shit. Everything makes the DPs look so shit, and the work that the gaffers and the lighting guys do to actually make the picture look cool. It's like it's too clean. It's like way too fucking clean. So it's nice to have that grittiness, and making this movie was kind of like revisiting as a kid, like watching those movies and trying to capture, for me in a way it was like I wanted this film to be like if John Hughes made like a fucking melt movie in the 80s. That's what I wanted to like try do in a way as well.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, I want to take a step back here a little bit. I mean, you mentioned the producers reached out to you, which makes me wonder, did they mention Fried Barry at all, like in the discussion? Like,
No, no, absolutely. It was because of Fry Barry. So Fry Barry was playing on Joe Bob's Last Drive-In,
yep.
and people kept mentioning, uh, Ryan Kruger would be great to do Street Trash. And that people kept on saying that, and then when I saw it, when I heard that, I thought like nothing of it. I didn't know the producers at the time properly or anything, so they didn't mention it to me. And then it just came about, and then everything just came together and happened.
Yeah, and the reason I mention that is because like both of those movies or both of these movies, they exist in this like intense dark world. And what draws you to create films within that style, and how does Street Trash ultimately compare to your previous work? Because I'm sure I mean, Fried Barry is instant classic in my book, but for people that are just now discovering you through Street Trash, how could you kind of guide them, through your catalog, if you will?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's one of those things. It's the weird and the wonderful and the bizarre of just, I guess, doing whatever the fuck I do, that like the style that I do. I do like offbeat characters and weird characters like Gary Green, who played Fry Barry. He just looks fucking great. He's just fucking weird and shit, and he's cool to like work with and stuff. So, and it's also making something different. I don't want to make the same thing as everything else. And Fry Barry is one of those films. It's either you get it or you don't. And that was Fried Barry. And it's the same with this. There's some people that may be against it straight away because they're like, oh, it's a remake. But then they watch it and they go, ah, fuck, I didn't expect that. I expected something totally different. And then it's also, you can feel that it's in that world, but it's also, I've got my stamp on it as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you know Fried Barry, then you know there's those bits and stuff that's in this film. So yeah, so it's really, yeah, it's hard to answer that question, but it's those like obscure or weird characters or visuals to tell that story. And it's like sometimes people say, oh, you can tell you directed it and all this, and I'm like, how? Like I but people fucking know. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, it's always cool to take on like cool projects and to do what I do with like, with my style, and I also want to expand. Fry Barry is like a very obscure experimental film in a way, and quite dark and edgier, I guess. But at the same time, it still had a narrative. It
Yeah.
still had a narrative there, and it still had all the beats there. It's just how you interpret it and how you look at it. Somebody could look at Fry Barry and go, it was one thing after the next. It was just fucking weird. But there is a story then. There was a lot of heart, and then also with, you know, with Street Trash, it's very different than Fry Barry. Kind of in the same world, but it's also very different where it's just more narrative. It's more narrative driven. It's more character, individual character driven. So it's there, but it's also same as Fry Barry. It also has a lot of heart. You also care for these characters. I'm not going to say what character dies, but when that one character dies, it's like everybody like feels it. Everyone's like, ah, shit, they didn't want him, to die, and I think that's important. That's important. There's too many genre films. Lower budget genre films that are made these days, and it's a fucking shit story. It's shit fucking actors and or characters or whatever, and there's nothing to it. So it's
Name
important for any.
names.
Yeah, no, 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 no. No, but it's one of those things. It happens all the time. It happens all the
Yeah.
time. So it's one of those where no matter what film you do, you need strong characters. You need a strong story. It would be fucking boring if it's just gore and nothing else. So it's like there's plenty of gore in the film. There's a shitload of gore and things popping and exploding. There's plenty of that. So for all the original fans, there's definitely plenty enough prosthetics, 80s style gore, which I love and grew up with. And yeah, it's anybody that loves like these 70s and 80s sort of films, there's a lot of references there. There's a lot of Easter eggs. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. To wrap up, man, I just kind of want to touch a little bit more on that Ryan Kruger stamp. And I think you kind of paved the way for me a little bit here, but I think it's that element of like balancing the horror and the humor, and if not humor, the heart. Um, but also still having that engaging narrative. Uh, with Street Trash in particular, like you mentioned, it's packed with those gross out set pieces. How do you balance that heart and horror? Because it's, as you mentioned, it's not easy because there are so many shit films that kind of come and go. How does Street Trash like set itself apart ultimately?
You know what? I think I think it always comes down to obviously the script. It comes down to balancing that, having that story, having that detailed strong story and have those layers. Once you've created that world, now you've got to have these characters that you put in there. And straight away, I think with Street Trash is, you've got these five or six or however many, like five, six characters, which they're all like fucking drug addicts and shit. They're all the good guys. They're all the drug addicts. I mean, a lot of people, look at certain homeless people and they go, "Oh yeah, they're on fucking drugs and they're fucking bad or whatever." And there is nice people that do take drugs
Sure.
and have addictions, but it doesn't mean they're bad people. It sounds like the bad people, but it doesn't mean they're bad people. And in this film, it's showing love for those certain characters that, at the end of the day, they're human. And at the end of the day, some people can relate to them and some people can just enjoy the funness of it. So I think it's having that script and having that balance. And then once you've set up all those things, then you can get weird and then you can get funny and then you can, make sure you have, the melts and stuff. But again, it's like with any film and any pre-prod and any story that you write, you have all these placeholders and you have all these, the breakdown of each scenes and what needs to happen. Like, everybody's loving the characters, and then it's like watching what was the series Game of Thrones or something where no character is safe. Where
Yeah.
I got to a point in the script and I'm like, fuck, something major needs to happen, and one of them needs to die. And I think that's when it comes to like good script writing is to throw the audience off. For me, with this film and with Fry Barry, it's one of those things where I press stop and then I go, what could happen now? It's either this is going to happen or this is going to happen. And as an audience member, it's normally this one or this one. And then what I try and do is like, okay, everybody knows it's probably this or this, but I'm going to go this way. And I think that's important because the amount of films that I'm sure that you watch and we watch, you know how it's going to turn out. You
Mhm.
know that the guy's going to win in the end, or you know that he has to die to save his daughter, or blah blah blah, or whatever. It's like it's. There's only so many ways to do a film, so to stay away from that and swerve certain things and keep the audience on their tiptoes and guessing what's going to happen next. That's what people should be doing. And it sounds like a fucking easy thing when you write a script, but I think there's so many people that don't do that. And when people watch movies, like if I name like Pulp Fiction or fucking whatever, people, I'll say, what do you remember from Pulp Fiction? What scenes do you remember? Do you remember, is it the dance that everybody remembers with John Travolta and Uma Thurman? Is it the fucking gimp in the basement? You know what I mean? So it's those things where you have certain scenes that you want people to remember and you want people to, it's the stick in your head. So I think that's important as a filmmaker. And I think, anybody that has enjoyed Street Trash, go on the letterbox, show some love. Let me know what you thought of it. And as a fan of the original, I'm just happy to be a part of that, a part of that Street Trash world.
Awesome. Yeah, Ryan Kruger, man of the people. I love the letterbox name drop there. Here at CineDump, we let the doers know how they're doing, and Ryan Kruger, you are doing just fine. I truly appreciate your time, man, and I can't wait to see what else comes out or what else comes next. So, yeah, Street Trash, man, make it happen.
Cool. Amazing. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Of course.